Before we begin, drop a comment below with your country and what time it is right now where you're watching. Whether it's sunrise in Nairobi, midnight in New York, afternoon in Canada, or evening in France, I want to know. Don't just sit back, tell me where in the world you are. Now, let's dive into the story. The cold, sterile room hummed with tension as Special Agent Mira Solace stared at the screen. The words, "Access denied," blinked mercilessly, mocking her efforts. She had spent sleepless nights piecing together fragments of intel, only to be thwarted by a digital wall. Outside, the storm raged, rain pelting the windows of the CIA headquarters in Langley, Virginia. It felt like the very heavens were echoing her frustration. "Why can't I access those files?" she muttered, her fingers trembling over the keyboard. The mission depended on the information hidden behind those digital gates. The threat was real. A shadowy organization known only as the Collective was planning something catastrophic, and time was running out. Just yesterday, she'd overheard whispers in the break room, doubts cast on her ability. "She's just a tech analyst," one agent had sneered. But she was more than that. She was determined to prove herself, to show that she could save the mission. Suddenly, her computer screen flickered, and a new message appeared. "You don't belong here." Mira's heart raced, fear and anger intertwining. Who was watching her? Just then, the door burst open, and her supervisor, Director Reynolds, strode in, his face grim. "Mira, we need to talk. Now." Her pulse quickened. Had they found out about her unauthorized attempts to access the files? She stood, resolve hardening. "I can crack the code, Director. I know I can." But as she met his gaze, she saw something dark. Disappointment. "You're risking your career," he warned, and her world began to tilt. "We don't have time for recklessness." The storm outside intensified, mirroring the brewing conflict within her. She had to act, and fast. Months earlier, Mira had been a promising recruit, a rising star in the CIA's tech division. The sun had shone brightly on her first day, illuminating the bustling halls of Langley. She had been filled with hope and ambition, eager to prove herself among seasoned agents. But the realities of the agency weighed heavily on her shoulders. The competitive environment was brutal, and she quickly learned that trust was hard to come by. Her closest ally had been Marcus, a fellow analyst with a knack for coding. They spent long hours together, bouncing ideas off each other, their laughter echoing through the dimly lit office. "You're going to crack a major case one day, Mira," he had said, his eyes sparkling with belief. But as the weeks passed, the agency's culture began to chip away at her confidence. The whispers in the hallways grew louder, her colleagues doubting her abilities, questioning her every move. Then came the fateful day when she first encountered the Collective. A lead landed on her desk, an encrypted message hinting at a major threat. "This is big," Marcus had said, excitement etched on his face. They dove into the investigation together, sifting through layers of encryption. But as they made progress, Mira noticed a shift. Marcus grew distant, his eyes clouded with something she couldn't identify. "Are you okay?" she had asked one evening, concern threading her voice. He brushed her off, but she sensed an unspoken tension. The closer they got to uncovering the truth, the more nervous he became. Was he afraid of what they might find? Or was there something more sinister at play? Just as she was about to confront him, the call about the classified files arrived, setting off a chain of events that would change everything. Back in the present, Mira sat in her dimly lit office, the weight of the world pressing down on her. The storm outside raged on, but it was the turmoil inside her that truly unsettled her. She replayed her last conversation with Marcus, the way he had flinched at her questions. Had he known something she didn't? The thought gnawed at her, fueling her determination to uncover the truth. "Access denied," she muttered again, frustration bubbling to the surface. But then, a glimmer of hope sparked in her mind. She remembered an old coding technique Marcus had shown her, a way to bypass security protocols. If she could just get access to the mainframe, She might be able to crack the code from the inside. The thrill of the challenge sent adrenaline coursing through her veins. As she worked, doubt crept in. What if she got caught? The consequences could be catastrophic, not just for her career, but for the mission. The faces of her colleagues flashed through her mind. People she cared about, people who relied on her. "I have to do this," she whispered to herself, steeling her resolve. Suddenly, a notification pinged on her screen. A message from an anonymous source appeared. "I can help you. Meet me at the back entrance, 2100 hours." Her heart raced, mixing excitement with a hint of fear. Who was this person? Could she trust them? But she had little choice. The clock was ticking, and she needed answers. As the hour approached, Mira felt the familiar knot of anxiety twist in her stomach. She had always been the one in control, the one who solved problems, not the one who had to rely on someone else. But desperation can drive people to make choices they never thought they'd make. She took a deep breath, preparing to step into the unknown. The rain drummed against the pavement as Mira made her way to the back entrance of the CIA building, her heart pounding in her chest. Shadows danced in the dim light, and the air was thick with tension. She glanced around, half expecting to see someone lurking in the corners. The prospect of betrayal weighed heavily on her, but the possibility of unlocking the files drove her forward. As she reached the entrance, a figure emerged from the darkness. It was a man, tall and cloaked in a dark raincoat. "Mira Solace?" he asked, his voice low. She nodded, suspicion mingling with curiosity. "I'm here to help." He stepped closer, revealing a badge clipped to his belt, an agent from another division. "My name is Eli. I've been monitoring your progress." "Why would you help me?" Mira asked, her voice steady despite the unease fluttering in her stomach. He sighed, glancing around as if ensuring they weren't overheard. "Because I believe in what you're doing. The collective is a threat, and they're closer than you think." Mira felt a surge of hope, but also caution. "What do you know?" she pressed, sensing the urgency in his tone. "I can help you access the files, but it won't be easy. There are layers of encryption and the clock is ticking." He pulled out a small device, its screen flickering to life. "This will allow us to bypass their initial security," he explained. "But you need to trust me." Mira hesitated. Trust was a luxury she couldn't afford, yet desperation clouded her judgment. "Okay," she agreed, though doubt lingered in the back of her mind. As they moved to the secure area, adrenaline surged through her veins. The stakes had never been higher, and the weight of their mission pressed heavily on her. She glanced at Eli, searching for reassurance, but his expression was grim. They were stepping into a world riddled with danger, and there was no turning back now. Inside the secure area, Mira felt the familiar hum of technology surrounding her. The walls were lined with monitors displaying streams of data, and the tension in the air was palpable. She and Eli moved quickly, their footsteps echoing in the silence. "We need to get to the mainframe," he urged, his voice low. Mira nodded, her fingers trembling as she approached the terminal. The blinking lights felt like a countdown, a reminder of the urgency of their situation. "What's the first step?" she asked, her mind racing. Eli leaned closer, guiding her through the process. "We'll use the bypass protocol. It's risky, but it's our best shot." As she typed, her heart raced. The familiar rhythm of coding calmed her nerves, grounding her in the moment. With each keystroke, she felt the weight of the world lift slightly. "I think I can do this," she murmured, determination igniting within her. But just as she reached the final code, an alarm blared, piercing the silence like a knife. Red lights flashed and panic surged through her. "We've been detected!" Eli shouted, his face pale. "We need to move now!" Mira's heart sank. They were so close, yet so far. "No, I'm almost there," she insisted, refusing to back down. "If we leave now, we might lose everything." Eli grabbed her arm, urgency etched in his features. We can't risk being caught. We'll find another way. With a final glance at the screen, Mira felt a pang of disappointment. They were on the verge of a breakthrough, and she couldn't let it slip away. But as the alarms rang louder, she knew they had no choice. They bolted for the exit, adrenaline fueling their escape. The weight of failure hung heavy in the air, but the mission was far from over. They sprinted through the dimly lit corridors, the sound of their footsteps echoing in the chaos. Mira could hear the distant shouts of security personnel closing in. "We need to split up," Eli urged, his eyes scanning for an exit. "I'll draw their attention. You find a way to access the files from another terminal." "No way," Mira retorted, her heart racing. "We're in this together. I won't leave you behind." The bond they had formed felt too fragile to break, but Eli's expression was resolute. "You're the only one who can crack the code. Trust me. I'll be fine." With a heavy heart, she nodded, knowing he was right. "Be careful," she whispered, fear gripping her as he darted down a side corridor. She took a deep breath, adrenaline coursing through her veins. She had to act fast. Finding a nearby office, she slipped inside, her heart pounding. The room was cluttered, papers strewn across the desk. She quickly located a terminal and powered it on. As the screen illuminated, she felt a surge of determination. She was a tech analyst. This was her domain. Typing furiously, she began the process of accessing the mainframe remotely. The seconds felt like hours, and the fear of being caught loomed over her. Outside, she could hear footsteps approaching, the sound growing closer. She needed to hurry. Just as she was about to connect, the door swung open, and a security officer stepped in. Mira froze, her heart racing as she searched for a way out. "Stop right there!" he shouted, and instinct kicked in. She dove to the side, narrowly avoiding the beam of his flashlight. She had to escape, or the mission, and her life, would be over. Mira stumbled through the office, adrenaline propelling her forward. The officer was closing in, his footsteps echoing in the confined space. She spotted a window and darted toward it, fear and determination fueling her every move. The ground below was a long drop, but it was better than being caught. As she reached the window, she heard the officer shout into his radio, calling for backup. Time was running out. Without thinking, she launched herself through the opening, landing hard on the grass outside. Pain shot through her leg, but she pushed it aside, focused on getting to safety. The world outside was a blur as she sprinted across the compound, the rain soaking her clothes. She could hear voices behind her, the sound of urgency growing louder. She had to find a place to hide, to regroup and figure out her next move. Spotting a nearby maintenance shed, she slipped inside, her breath coming in. Ragged gasps. The interior was dark, filled with tools and equipment. She pressed herself against the wall, her heart racing as she listened for signs of pursuit. The rain pounded against the roof, drowning out the sounds outside. As she caught her breath, she pulled out her phone, fingers trembling as she checked for any messages from Eli. Nothing. Panic surged within her. She had to reach him before it was too late. She remembered their earlier conversation about backup plans. If she could access the files, maybe she could still save the mission. If she could just find a way to connect with him. With renewed determination, she took a deep breath and focused on the task at hand. She needed to get back to the mainframe, and she needed Eli's help. The storm outside echoed her turmoil, but she refused to let fear consume her. She would find a way. Mira's heart raced as she formulated a plan. She had to reach Eli and access the mainframe again. The thought of him out there alone, facing danger, pushed her forward. After several moments of silence, she quietly left the shed, glancing around cautiously. The rain had slowed to a drizzle, but the air was thick with tension. She made her way back toward the main building, the shadows playing tricks on her mind. Each step felt like a countdown, the threat of discovery looming large. As she approached the entrance, she spotted Eli, his expression grim as he emerged from the shadows. "Mira," he whispered urgently, relief washing over his features. "I thought I lost you. Did you get the files?" "No, not yet," she replied, urgency lacing her voice. "But I have a plan. We need to access the mainframe again, but this time we'll do it together. Eli nodded, determination shining in his eyes. Let's move. Together they navigated the hallways, their footsteps synchronized as they approached the secure area. The air felt charged with anticipation, and Mira's heart raced as they reached the terminal. "Ready?" she asked, her fingers hovering over the keyboard. Eli nodded, his gaze intense as he prepared to assist her. "Let's crack this code." With renewed focus, they began typing, rhythmically entering commands. The tension in the air was palpable as they fought against the clock. Mira could feel the adrenaline pulsing through her veins, the stakes higher than ever. This was their moment, a chance to save the mission, to stop the collective before it was too late. As the progress bar filled on the screen, Mira felt a surge of hope. They were so close. But just as they reached the final step, another alarm blared, and the lights flickered ominously. "They're on to us!" Eli shouted, urgency flooding his voice. "We need to hurry!" She typed faster, panic tinged with determination. "Almost there! Just a little longer!" The room trembled with the force of the alarm, the sound deafening. Mira's fingers flew across the keyboard, her mind racing as she worked to bypass the final layers of security. "I can't believe we're this close!" she exclaimed, adrenaline fueling her resolve. But just as the screen flickered with success, the door burst open and armed security personnel flooded in. "Hands in the air!" one shouted, his weapon trained on them. Mira's heart sank, and panic surged through her. "Go!" she shouted to Eli, but he stood frozen, eyes wide with fear. "I can't leave you!" "Just trust me," she urged, her voice steady despite the chaos. With a final keystroke, she entered the last command, and the screen erupted with data. "I've got the files!" The security personnel moved closer, and Mira pushed Eli toward the window. "Jump! I'll hold them off!" "Are you insane?" he shouted, desperation etched on his face. But Mira's resolve was unyielding. "I'll be right behind you, just go!" With one last look, he leaped through the window, and Mira felt her heart race. She turned to the guards, adrenaline surging as she prepared to fight. "You'll regret this!" she shouted, defiance igniting within her. But as she faced them, the screen behind her pulsed with stolen intel. Suddenly a voice broke through the chaos. "Stand down!" It was Director Reynolds, flanked by agents. "Agent Solace! You're in over your head!" Mira felt a flicker of hope. If Reynolds was here, maybe they could turn the tide. "I have the files!" she shouted, holding them up as proof. "We can stop the collective!" Iron Solace, she whispered to herself, a name that felt like a badge of honor. It symbolized not just her resilience, but her triumph over the challenges she had faced. The sun broke over the horizon, casting a warm glow over the city. And for the first time in a long while, Mira felt a sense of peace settle within her. Eli joined her on the rooftop, his presence a comforting reminder of their shared journey. "We did it, didn't we?" he said, a proud smile lighting up his face. "We stopped them." Mira nodded, her heart swelling with gratitude. "I couldn't have done it without you. You believed in me when I didn't believe in myself." He chuckled softly. "You always had it in you, Mira. It just took a little push and a lot of chaos." As they stood there, watching the city wake up, Mira realized how far she had come. She had cracked the code, not just digitally but within herself. The doubts that had once haunted her were replaced by a newfound confidence. She was no longer just an analyst. She was a vital part of something greater. Days turned into weeks as the agency rebuilt after the thwarted attack. Mira found herself leading a new team, her ideas respected and valued. The mission had changed her, and now she was determined to help others find their strength, just as Eli had helped her. One afternoon, she gathered her team in the same room where she had once felt the weight of doubt. "We're not just here to analyze data," she began, her voice steady. "We're here to protect lives. Each of you has something unique to offer. Trust in yourselves and each other." As she spoke, She noticed the spark of belief igniting in their eyes. She had transformed from a doubted analyst to a leader, someone who inspired others to rise above their fears. But the shadows of the collective still lingered, and Mira knew their threat was far from over. She remained vigilant, researching and strategizing, determined to stay one step ahead. The mission was ongoing, and she would not falter. One evening, as she reviewed intel, a familiar ping echoed through her office. It was a message from Director Reynolds. "Meeting in 5. Urgent." Mira's heart raced. What could be so urgent? She gathered her notes, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. As she walked to the conference room, she felt a sense of purpose coursing through her veins. Inside, Reynolds was already waiting, flanked by senior agents. "Mira, your work has been exemplary," he began, his tone serious. "However, we've received new intel. The collective is regrouping, and we need a plan, fast." Mira felt the weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders. But this time, she welcomed it. "I've been analyzing their patterns. I believe we can anticipate their next move," she said confidently. With each word, she felt the familiar thrill of challenge ignite within her. The fear that had once paralyzed her was replaced by a fierce determination. She was ready to face whatever came next, not just as an analyst, but as a warrior in the shadows. As the meeting progressed, Mira shared her insights, and for the first time she saw respect in the eyes of her colleagues. They were listening, truly listening, and it fueled her resolve. Together, they mapped out a strategy, each person contributing their expertise. When the meeting concluded, Mira felt a sense of camaraderie fill the room. They were united in their mission, and she was no longer alone in her fight. As she left, Eli caught her gaze, a proud smile on his face. "We're going to crush them," he said, his voice steady. Mira nodded, feeling the fire of determination burn brighter. Together. As she stepped into the bustling hallway, the sun streamed through the windows, illuminating her path. She was ready to face the darkness, to protect those who could not protect themselves. The code had been cracked, and with it, she had discovered the strength within herself. Mira Solace was no longer just an analyst. She was a beacon of hope, a force to be reckoned with. And as she prepared for the battles ahead, she knew one thing for certain. She would rise to meet every challenge, embodying the spirit of Iron Solace, unyielding and fierce. The mission was far from over, but she was ready. Together, they would face the storm.